All right, recording in three, two, and one.
That's great. It starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes and airplanes, and Lenny Bruce is not afraid.
You know what I love?
What?
You're an idiot.
Big
Oh, welcome to episode 185 of Nerdery Murdery.
185. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your Murdery. Welcome to another week of the highs and lows and the ups and downs, the good and the bad and the nerd and the murd. So I know we're in the future for everybody else, but it is the holiday for us. It's Christmas week for us. We've
Yes.
got we've got family in. In-laws arrived yesterday. Miranda arrives tonight. So we have a nice full household for the week. Be a lot of fun. Be really good.
Nice.
Um, I know I talk about golf all the time, and some people don't care, but it's the most humbling sport in the world. I had a great week of golf
Uh-huh.
and a great week or a great day of practice last Sunday. And we
Uh-huh.
played in a couples tournament, and then I shit the bed.
Was,
We can,
was was it like the scene in Happy Gilmore where he's playing with Bob Barker and he's terrible?
God, I mean, it rained for 8 holes. Um, and we came in second to last. It was terrible. It was
Maybe
awful.
should come in dead last.
Yeah, we did not come in dead last, which is great. So, I guess take positives from that.
At any point, did Chelsea look over you and go, "You should be working at the snack bar"?
No, no, she's supportive with it. It's just a humbling sport. I mean, you do the same thing every time, and then you just have crap. It's weird. It's a weird, weird game. Ah, but anyway. Um, so our listener Paul messaged me the other day.
Sweet.
Uh, he will listen to the episodes occasionally with his granddaughter. I
Uh-huh.
believe he said that he generally has to cut it off for my part because
Uh-huh.
she is very young.
Yeah.
But she likes listening, and
Oh, nice.
they were listening to our latest episode that released last week. And as they were listening, I had mentioned him in the show,
Uh-huh.
and she said she calls him Grumpy. I love that. She said, Grumpy, he's talking about a guy that has your name. And then he told her, no, it's actually, me that he's referring to because I've been friends with him for over 40 years. So she now thinks he's cool
Hey!
and
Yay! Props for Paul.
wants to be on the podcast. So I told him to bring it on. So Delaney, this is for you. If you're listening, you're welcome to come on as a guest. We would love to have you.
That's right. Hey, I tell you what, you tell us what you want to talk about, and I'll write up notes for it, and we'll do that for the episode, Miss Delaney.
Awesome. Um, Paul also said to give you a high five. The episode he was listening to, you apologized to Mike from Two Geeks and a Microphone because he was going to Striper. So he said to give you a
Yeah,
high five. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff.
nice.
Speaking of Mike from Two Geeks and a Microphone, if you have not listened to it yet, we do have a three-way crossover out there with Two Geeks and a
Menage
Microphone.
a pod is what the three geeky dads were calling it the other day.
Um, We haven't recorded it yet, but we know it'll be recorded by the time this comes out. And I have an idea. It's going to be insanity because
Oh yeah.
the text those messages that we have all had back and forth have been insanity.
Yeah.
Um, so much fun. So for Two Geeks and Microphone and Three Geeky Dads, we'll all be recording together, starting on their podcast. Then it goes on to Three Geeky Dads, and then we will go to Two Geeks and a Microphone, and then finally on ours. The murdery will only be on ours,
Yes.
and I'm not going to give anything away here because I want you to go listen. But one of the things I try when we do these crossovers, I try to tie them in to the nerdery subject, and I have with this one. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to surprise
Okay.
Zig and
Yeah.
save it.
Yeah. Well, technically I am always surprised because I never know what the murder is
Right,
beforehand.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
this one
And so
will
you can get my
definitely be.
reaction. Yeah.
Um, so for listeners, go listen because I think you will be surprised that I'm actually able to tie into the nerdery on this one. So it's pretty funny.
Cool.
All right, so Zig, I'll let you take it over on the nerdery side of the house.
Whoop whoop. Today we're going to talk about three more albums by REM.
You said three more because we did do REM
Yes,
previously.
we
Okay,
did the first
I
three
thought
albums
so.
by REM.
That's right. I thought so.
And I was like, we're going to do the next three because I know I know at least one of them is your favorite. So
One of my
um
favorites, yes.
yeah, we're going to talk about Life's Rich Pageant, Document, and Green.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and ruin it now. Document is my favorite of theirs. I
Yeah.
like Green, but Document is by and far my favorite. That's Document is one of those albums that to me doesn't have a bad song on it.
I I've said this in the past. We're in REM's period where there's not a bad. You may not like every song, but there's not a bad song on any of these albums. They
Right,
did
but
like 7 albums straight.
Document I like everything
Yeah,
on
yeah,
it. That's what I'm saying with
yeah.
that. But
Even the even like hair shirt and stuff. It's like, dude, that's a great
yeah,
song.
yeah,
Or hair suit. Sorry.
yep.
Um. So REM is an American alternative rock band formed in Athens, Georgia in 1980 by drummer Bill Berry, guitarist Peter Buck, bassist Mike Mills, and lead vocalist Michael Stipe. The reason why they go by Mike and Michael is so you won't get them confused. That's on purpose. Um, they were all students at the University of Georgia. One of the first alternative rock bands, REM was noted for Buck's ringing, arpeggiated guitar style, Stipe's distinctive vocal qualities, unique stage presence, and obscure lyrics. Mills' melodic bass line and backing vocals, and Barry's tight, economical drumming style in the early '90s. Other alternative rock acts such as Nirvana, Pixies, and Pavement viewed REM as a pioneer of the genre. After Barry left in 1997, the band continued with mixed critical and commercial success. The band broke up amicably in 2011, having sold more than 90 million albums worldwide and becoming the world's best-selling music acts. Um, as with previous recordings, there were singles on the Fables of Reconstruction were mostly ignored by mainstream radio. Let me say this. You talk about REM, you're talking about this world spanning band. When you guys talk about REM, I think about them never getting played on regular radio and being mad about it. Um, and I know there's a split there. It happened right after this period where they played their stuff all over the world and they toured all over the world. But at this period, they're still an indie band. As a matter of fact, the first two albums here are independent records. They're off of IRS. Um,
Which is
so,
really funny that because we've covered IRS before, way back when.
oh yeah,
Um, that's funny that Document is IRS because Document was huge.
yeah,
Green was even bigger,
yeah. Yeah, well,
which which
Green was their first major label.
yeah, which I think is funny because and maybe that's why, but I think that's funny because I think Document's a better album, but Green
Oh, I
was a
agree.
smash hit for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think Document's better. I like
Yeah.
Document better.
Hmm.
But yeah, Green's still a fastball. And the next one they do after this, Out of Time, which is what took the world by storm, even though Green was pretty big.
Out of
Um,
Time and then Automatic for the People.
yep.
Yeah.
And I want to say Out of Time is another one where every song on there is a banger.
Well, and that's the thing about REM too. 'Cause we mentioned I know we mentioned it in the first episode. Um, if you have not listened to REM, go listen to some REM because they are really good.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm begging everybody who's listening now, stop, listen to the playlist because all three albums are in there. Just go listen to them and then come back and talk. If you if you want to pause while we do one album at a time, you really need to understand what we're talking about when we say there's not a bad song on the album because there isn't. They're all good.
Right.
Um, they're all well made. Yeah, so I mean, again, as with previous recordings, the singles from Fables of Reconstruction, which is the first one we're talking about in this series, it's actually their fourth album. They were mostly ignored by mainstream radio. Meanwhile, IRS was becoming frustrated with the band's reluctance to achieve mainstream success. So, for the fourth album, REM enlisted John Mellencamp's producer, Don Gurman, The album entitled Life's Rich Pageant, released in 1986, featured Stipe's vocals closer to the forefront of the music, which was not uncommon. His stuff was usually kind of at the background a little bit. They like to blend it in.
Hmm.
Um, but they did kind of bring his vocals a little further out on Life's Rich Pageant. And not for nothing, about this period, Michael Stipe actually started taking singing lessons. And not so much for sounding better, because I don't think he could have sounded better. It was more about breath control and his ability to project. So that's what he learned between, because he was having some vocal troubles when he was recording the third album that we talked about in the previous episode. Um, so he, he's he he's taken some basically breathing control exercises, and it helped him to kind of push his voice a little more forward anyway. And on the recording on it, they did that even more so. Um, Someone said Peter Buck related Michael is getting it was Peter Buck that said it is getting better at what he's doing, and he's getting more confident at it. And I think that shows up in the projection of his voice. The album improved markedly upon the sales of Fables of Reconstruction, which didn't do bad, especially for an indie album. And it reached number 21 on the Billboard album chart. The single Fall on Me also picked up support on commercial radio. The album was the band's first to be certified gold for selling 500,000 copies. That's 500,000 records, baby. While American college radio remained REM's core support, the band was beginning to chart hits on mainstream rock formats. However, the music still encountered resistance from top 40 radio.
So, question, do
Uh-huh.
they even track gold and platinum anymore?
Yeah, they still do.
I
They count streams now.
That's what I was wondering if they counted streams now instead of album
They count
purchases.
streams now, and it goes into the number. I don't think it's the whole number. But record sales are going up. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh yeah, I know because of this stupid idea out there, and I'm going to call it stupid. I don't care who I offend on this. This stupid idea that vinyl is pure. That's the sound. No, it is not. That is not how people sound
I'm
when
just
they're
holding up a
singing.
record. I'm
Yeah,
holding up a
you
record.
could barely see it. That is not how people sound live. That is not how people sound in the record studio. The little cracks and pops you hear on vinyl is not pure. That's stupid.
You're
There, I've
right.
said
You're
it.
right. It is not pure. It is warmer and more comforting, is what it
Fuck
is.
that.
I love the sound.
I hate that. If there's any one thing that just drives me nuts, it's that when I hear that vinyl is just the way to
Vinyl
go.
is pure.
Shut
It's a
up.
better sound. It's a warmer tone.
Shut up.
I
Shut
like it
up.
because it's more comforting. For me, it's more comforting.
I'm gonna stab myself in the eye with this Sharpie right here.
You're gonna have to hit it really hard. That thing's really dull. It'll hurt more.
No, it's not. This is one of the fine point ones.
Oh, that's a sharp Sharpie.
Yes, that's one of the fine point ones. I use it to mark up my golf balls.
Nice. Well, not to put too fine a point on it.
That's another
You're welcome.
band. That's another band.
You're welcome.
That's another band.
So, following the success of Life's Rich Pageant, IRS issued Dead Letter Office, a compilation of tracks recorded by the band during their album sessions, many of which had either been issued as B-sides or left unreleased altogether. Shortly thereafter, IRS compiled REM's music videos catalog, except for Wolves Lower as the band's first video release called Succumbs. So we're going to get into um,
Words.
we're going to get into Life's Rich Pageant right now a little bit. I'm going to let you in on the track listing. They are Begin the Begin, These Days, Fall on Me, Cuyahoga, Hyena, Underneath the Bunker, which is actually an unlisted track, The Flowers of Guatemala, I Believe, What If We Give It Away, Just a Touch, Swan Swan H, and Superman. Two of my favorite REM songs are on this album. That would be I Believe and Superman.
Hmm.
I love I Believe. Um, So what did you think? Yeah, let's talk about the songs. What did you think about those songs?
So this album was before my time. I know him now,
Yeah,
but this one was before my time. My introduction into REM, knowing it was REM, because honestly, now I know that there were REM songs I knew before, but
yeah, at least you know who it was.
Document was my introduction to
Yeah.
REM because even though it was IRS and it was independent, um, the one I love went mainstream and went
Yeah.
mainstream quick
Yes, it
and
did.
started charting quick.
Yes, it
Um,
did.
so no, it, it's a great album. It really, really is. Um, again, I can't think of a song on there that I hate. I don't necessarily like all of them.
Hmm.
Um, but it's not a bad album at all.
Yeah, I actually, again, two of my favorite REM songs. So I kind of whiffle back between this one and Document as to which is my favorite.
Mm.
Um, and again, if Document had I Believe on it, Document would be my favorite. That's or maybe Superman. Um, so again, they got with the producer for John Cougar Mellencamp. Um, they play the ecologically minded Cuyahoga, which refers to the once heavily polluted Cuyahoga River that flows into Lake Erie at Cleveland, Ohio. The song included the lyrics, "We burned the river down," which refers to several occasions, most famously in 1969 when the river actually caught on fire. At the end of Just a Touch, frontman Michael Stipe could be heard screaming the line, "I'm so young, I'm so goddamn young," quoting longtime influence Patti Smith's live cover version of The Who's My Generation. It was released on the B side of her 1976 single Gloria, which she also used at the end of the cover version Privilege Set Me Free from her 1978 album Easter. During the first half of 1986, the band took a break from touring to recover energy. Again, they started in 1980 and they've basically been working until this period. So, Christmas in 1985 and then New Year's, they took a break for 6 months or so. They wanted to make a change from the sound of their previous album, with Mills saying, "We wanted to get away from the sort of murky feelings and sound that we got out of Joe, who was a producer of Fables and Reconstruction in London, and they wanted a really hard driving record. But they also want to like throw in lots of things, pianos and organs and accordions and banjos and whatnot, and considered working with Gaiman, that they liked the acoustic sound of his work with John Mellencamp. They initially met for an extended demo session at John Keane's studio in Athens, Georgia in March of '86. These recordings would later be released as the Athens demos on the 25th anniversary release of the album. After being initially skeptical, they embraced the new recording process, with Gaiman later stating that, "I like to spend time on the arrangements and layer in the overdubs and comp the vocals. All this process, which to me was normal record making, they had never been through before." When they saw the kind of record making process, they didn't take anything away, but it actually added another level of artistic expression. They were very excited by it. The album was recorded at Mellencamp's Belmont Mall recording studios in Belmont, Indiana. And yes, when that studio opened up, it was originally in the Belmont Mall. I don't think the Belmont Mall exists anymore, but the recording studio is still there. And they recorded it in April and May of '86. The recording studio was larger and had newer technology than they were used to, and they enjoyed the area, attending many concerts in nearby Bloomington while they were there. The band were also happy with the production of the record and extra clarity on the vocals. Bassist Mike Mills saying, uh, "Don Gaiman, the album's producer, is good at layering things so there can be a lot of things going on, but you can still hear everything." And as far as Michael's vocals go, it's a combination of things. Michael is getting better at what he's doing, and he's getting more confident at it. And I think that showed up in the projection of his voice. The overall dub uh, sound of everything was so good. We didn't mind having the vocals mixed as loud as they were. The album's title is based on an English idiom. It uses a very old but REM um, use is, according to guitarist Peter Buck from the 1964 film A Shot in the Dark, minus the apostrophe, Inspector Clouseau opens a car door falling into a fountain. Maria, "You should get out of those clothes immediately. You'll catch your death of pneumonia, you will." Clouseau, "Yes, I probably will, but it's part of life's rich pageant, you know." That's where the album title come from. The cover of the album is a photograph of drummer Bill Berry on the upper half and a pair of bison signifying an environmental theme on the lower half. It also alludes to Buffalo Bill. So yeah. Um,
Dude.
what?
So as you were talking, I was just curious. I mean, I had mentioned that I was wondering about album sales and whatnot, how they certified them gold, platinum, blah 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 blah
Yes.
blah blah.
Yes.
So looked up Life's Rich Pageant,
Hmm.
and they have a few songs on there that have millions of views.
Hmm.
The number one on that album, according to streaming, this is for Spotify. Spotify,
Is
if you want, if
Superman a
you
Fall on Me?
Fall on Me.
Okay.
Superman is two at 8 million. Fall on Me is number one at 17.
Uh-huh.
So I got curious, just started looking around. Let's go to Document. Document, I was actually surprised. The End of the World as We Know It is the number one on that at 245 million.
Yeah.
The one I love at 143 million. Um, then I moved over to Green,
Hmm.
and Green, the top two on that song are Orange Crush and Stand, No Shock.
Yeah.
69 million and 48 million, so they've shot even up there.
Yeah.
Then moved to Out of Time. Guess the number one song on Out of Time. Probably not hard.
Look, yeah. Let me think. Let me think for just a second. I gotta. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Losing My Religion.
1.5 billion.
Does not surprise me.
Wow.
Yeah. And keep in mind, kids, uh,
And that's
Out of
just on
Time was
Spotify.
19,
And
yeah,
that's just on Spotify.
1990 or 1991 for Out of Time.
Out of Time's 91.
Okay. So they're talking about not being able to get their songs played on the radio in 1986. 5 years later, there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
That's how big they broke.
you had Life's Retreaded at 86, Document was 87,
Hmm.
Green was 88, and then Out
Hmm.
of Time was 91. So they've got a little hiatus in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and they toured Document and Green for years. They
Yeah.
toured Document for a couple of years, and then and then they started touring Green, and then they kind of toured them together, and then they made Out of Time.
Hmm.
Speaking of Document, so the next album they did, they got together again the next year, 1987, as Jeffrey just said. Don Gehman was unable to produce REM's fifth album, so he suggested the group work with Scott Litt. Litt would be the producer for the band's next five albums. Document featured some of Stipe's most openly political lyrics, particularly to Welcome to the Occupation and Exhuming McCarthy.
Finest work song too, I believe.
Yeah. Which were reactions to the conservative political environment of the 1980s under American President Ronald Reagan. Joe Perrells of the New York Times wrote in his review of the album, Document is both confident and defiant. If REM is about to move from cult-based status to mass popularity, the album decrees that the band will go there on its own terms. Document was REM's breakthrough album, the first single, The One I Love, charted in the top 20 in the US, UK, and Canada.
Stop there. The one I love. I've mentioned this outside the podcast at least
Mm-hmm.
many, 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 many times. The one thing that drives me crazy about that song
Mm-hmm.
is there are people out there, and I've even heard people on the radio call in to dedicate that song
Mm-hmm.
to the one they love, who they love so much. They want to play this love song.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a love song. The one I love is about using somebody.
Uh-huh.
It is not a love song.
Yep. It's about
Drives
using somebody.
drives me crazy.
Yeah. Listen to the lyrics real closely. Michael Stipe's he's very he's very literary, but you know what he means when he's talking.
Oh yeah, he's talking about a throwaway girl.
Uh-huh. Actually, it's a throwaway dude.
Oh, is it?
Mhm.
Well,
It may
it's
have been
about a throw.
actually at the time he was, you know,
I will correct
could have been
myself. It's
either.
it's about a throwaway person.
Yeah, yeah, a pass around.
Yes.
That's not very nice. Um, so yeah, it was really big, and by January of '88, Document had become the group's first album to sell 1 million copies. In light of the band's breakthrough in the December 1987 cover, Rolling Stone declared REM America's best rock and roll band. That was a shot over the bow. You know what I mean? That was a shot over the bow. For us indie kids, when Rolling Stone said, because again, we didn't like Rolling Stone. Spin was our magazine.
Still don't like Rolling Stone.
Yeah. When Rolling Stone said that, it's like, yeah, it's about fucking time. You ancient ass old boomers caught up with the rest of the world. I mean, again, we were kind of pithy and gatekeeperish about this stuff back then. And I can't say it was other people. I was one of the kids. You know what I mean? I was one of those indie kids. But it was released on August 31st, 1987, by IRS Records. It was the first album of the band to be produced by Scott Litt. And in continuing in the vein of the previous album, Life's Rich Pageant, document featured more audible lyrics and a harder rock sound in comparison to the band's earlier releases. The album became REM's greatest success at the time, giving the band their first top 10 hit, The One I Love, and the album peaked at number 10 on the Billboard 200. Um, so let's talk about the track listing on that for a second. So here we go. Now, keep in mind, there were a couple of these songs that played on regular radio. Every other song on this album played on indie radio. Well, not quite everyone. Finest Work song, that's college radio. I think might be the best song of this album.
Finest Work song is very good.
Yeah, that or Strange.
I like
Great.
Oddfellows Local 151.
Oh my God, what a great song. Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
so Finest Work song, Welcome to the Occupation, Exhuming McCarthy, Disturbance at the Heron House,
Hmm.
Strange, It's the End of the World as We Know It, and I Feel Fine, The One I Love, Fireplace, Lightning Hopkins, King of Birds, and Oddfellows Local 151.
And so I can tell you because I was mainstream when this
Mhm.
came out. It's the End of the World as we know it and The One I Love are the only two that played mainstream.
Yeah,
The only two.
yeah. Strange, those two played on indie radio as well. So did Strange, so did Finest Work song. Um, and I want to say like Welcome to the Occupation also. Um, Lightning Hopkins, I think I heard a few times, but it was because someone requested it. Um, Lightning Hopkins being about old Texas blues man, Lightning Hopkins. Great. And it has a old Texas blues acoustic blues sound. It's beautiful. You should listen to it for nothing else. Just listen to it for that because it's great. Um, but um, honestly, you should listen to the whole damn album. Um, Finest Work song. If you're gonna start an album, open it with that.
Finest Work song, FY, is the third most streamed on this album.
Yeah, a lot of people play it before they go to work. It's not uncommon. Welcome to the Occupation is a political song.
The fourth most downloaded, most streamed on this album.
Damn. Exhuming McCarthy
I'm
is
sorry. I'm sorry. Zumi McCarthy is four.
yeah,
Sorry.
that's a shot over the bow at the Reagan administration.
Yeah. Welcome to the Occupation is next after that.
Okay. Disturbance at the Heron House. You don't hear that one too often. It's still a great song. Strange. Um, there's something strange going on tonight. There's something strange. It's not quite right. That's a rocker. That's a bar song. That was one they played live. That was a big live song. As a matter of fact, in the next album, there's a breakdown in Pop Song 89.
Hmm.
I never thought it could be so strange. In concert, when they say, I never thought it could be so strange, they go into like a little piece of strange. There's something strange going on tonight. And then go right back into Pop Song 89. It is really cool. I couldn't find one of that. Uh, and then it's the end of the world as we know it. The thought is they talk about it being the end of the world, and the backing vocal is, I am so glad for some time alone, and I feel fine. That is the most Gen X thing. It's like, oh, hey, the world's ending. Oh, it'll be nice to have some time alone. I'm fine. I'm fine. Beautiful. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And it's um Mike Stipe has a hard time with singing this song, especially in later years as he got further away from writing it. He would have to have a list of stuff he's supposed to say. It wouldn't be like the whole song, but like there are parts where it's like we threw that together and wrote it and then performed it for years and years and years. So I never forgot it. And then they didn't perform it for a while. So it's like I know the Birds and Snakes part. I know Lenny Bruce. You know, but there gets to a point there in the middle of that song where uh, Lester Bangs, cheesecake, jelly beans, boom, and then it's kind of hard to understand what he's saying. I can remember listening to that on cassette and writing them down so I knew what he was saying. Stop or pause. And and I didn't understand half the references in 1987. I learned the references later on. But yeah, this was an amazing album. The one I love, again, it's a song about using people. But Oddfellows Local 151 is about a local Oddfellows group that Mike Stipe loved. And it's another one of those things. It's like, who talks about Oddfellows? You know what I mean? Who talks about Oddfellows? Nobody. Nobody talks about Oddfellows. Well, REM does. The next song or the next album is Green. Green is a major label record. Um, Frustrated that the record did not see a satisfactory overseas distribution, REM left IRS with its contract expired and signed with a major label, Warner Brothers Records. Though other labels offered more money, REM ultimately signed with Warner Brothers, reportedly for an amount between 6 and 12 million due to the company's assurance of total creative freedom. Jay Boberg claimed that REM's deal with Warner Brothers was for 22 million, which Peter Buck disputed as definitely wrong. Peter Buck's whole thing was Peter Buck's kind of, I don't want to say he's an a-hole. Peter Buck is very factual. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Bill Berry is the sweetheart of the group, as is Mike Mills. But Peter Buck is like, no, this is what happened. Um, and anybody who says different is fucking lying to you. I mean, he's very blunt, and I love him for that. He's like, we took less money so they wouldn't jack with our records. Um, the aftermath of the group's departure, IRS released the 1988 Best of compilation, Eponymous, which they put together with input from the band because the band wasn't really mad at the record company. They couldn't get them over the hump. Um, so they sat down and let them record Eponymous. What Eponymous means, when you have an album by the band, you got a band that releases an album. Say the band is Bob, and Bob releases an album called Bob. In the press, you call that an eponymous album. That's not what REM and IRS did. They titled the album Eponymous, which is ridiculous. But and I also wanted to talk about Eponymous. Eponymous is a best hits. Um, if you want to hear the best hits of REM from 1980 to 1987, I would say buy this record. Buy this record or stream it. Just play it in your car. There's not a bad song on it. However, I think you should dive deeper into their catalog than that because again, they didn't make any bad albums. They didn't make a bad album until turn of the century. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Um, Jeffrey.
I thought they started taking a step backwards. Well, I say backwards. I I only like a couple of songs on, or maybe two or three on Automatic for the People. I
Mhm.
don't think it's near as good as Out of Time is, which is the album we're supposed to be talking about. We're moving away from it now.
No, well, actually, we're talking
Um,
about Green.
or Green, excuse me.
Yeah.
Out of Time was really good. But Automatic for the People, I just wasn't as happy with.
Mm-mm.
And that's when I kind of thought they took a step backwards
Yeah.
a little
Yeah. They're
bit.
they lost their fastball quite a bit.
Yeah. And
But
then
and they picked it back up a little bit with the album after that called Monster, which
and
was
I
more of
was
a rock
just
album.
gonna say I didn't like Monster very much. There's like one or two songs on Monster that I like. I think they hit a high note with Out of Time,
Hmm.
and that's kind of where REM stops for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't say that Automatic for the People or Monster were bad albums. They still had some good songs on them. I mean, I've heard way worse albums, but anything after that,
Well,
not
again,
so
like I
much.
said, I didn't say they were bad songs. I just didn't really like
You
them
just
very
didn't like them.
much.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it was like the what was it, the lo-fi or the modern living in lo-fi or something like that.
Yeah.
It was terrible. It was like this is not an REM record. REM must be done. And
Mm.
I think they realized that, and once they realized that, they quit. That's basically when they quit. It's like, oh yeah, we're not like it's like okay, that bad album wasn't great. Let's try another one.
Hmm.
Oh no, that's not good. You know what? Maybe we should hang it up. And I think that's basically what happened.
Well, and sometimes, sometimes when you hit a high note with an album that is just gold
Uh-huh.
from start to finish, when you hit an album that is gold from start
Yeah.
to finish, it's sometimes hard to follow that up.
Oh my God, yeah.
I'm going to be very unpopular when I say this, I'm sure. With with kind of a little bit of an exception. U2 hit their peak with Joshua Tree. That was a phenomenal album. That's where they hit their peak. And I think after that, they had a few good hits, but their albums weren't near as good anymore.
Oh, I'll agree with that wholeheartedly.
Well, I
Rattlin' Hum was okay. There's some great bangers on Rattlin' Hum.
and Rattle and Hum was what I was going to say is the exception, but Rattle and Hum, with the exception of, if I recall correctly, two songs,
Mhm.
it was all redone songs,
Yeah.
songs they had done previously. The two I think it was Angel of Harlem and
You say
one other. There,
you want
I think there's like two songs on
ring. I'm
there
singing it right now.
that
All I
that
want is you. All I want is you.
I thought All I Want Is You was on Joshua Tree. Is it
Mm-mm.
not? Okay. Um, but so yeah, they hit a high point. You know, there's a
Mhm.
lot of people out there that think Joshua Tree is one of the greatest albums ever made.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm not going to say they're wrong in that because Joshua Tree
Oh,
was
it's a
a
pretty damn good
great
album.
album. It was a
Yeah, it was
great
pretty
album.
damn good album.
But that's kind of where I think with REM as well. Even though I personally like Document better,
Hmm.
Out
Out
of
of Time
Time
was their
was
peak.
their peak.
Hmm.
Was their peak. So anyway, back to Green.
Yeah. So the band's first album for Warner Brothers, Green, was recorded in Memphis, Tennessee, and showcased the group's experiment with sound. The record's tracks range from the upbeat first single, Stand, a hit in the United States, to more political material like the rock-oriented Orange Crush and World Leader Pretend, both bangers, which addressed the Vietnam War and the Cold War, respectively. Green has gone on to sell 4 million copies worldwide. The band supported the album with their biggest and most visually developed tour to date, featuring projections and art films playing on the stage. After the Green World Tour, the band members unofficially decided to take the following year off, the first extended break of the band's career um, in 1990. So that's why, yeah. So yeah, they took that little what 1 month break January of 1986, and then they didn't break after that until basically January of 1990. So 4 years since they've basically been working every day. in some capacity or another. So they decided to take some time off. That's why there's a gap between
Well,
Green and Out of
that
Time.
and that was not uncommon in the '80s. I don't know how common it is now or uncommon. It wasn't uncommon in the '80s. And if you go watch the movie Rockstar,
Hmm.
it really showcases that because, Rockstar is about an '80s hair band.
Hmm.
Um, it showcases that where you write an album, you record an album, you release an album, you tour that album, and then you're back in the recording studio.
Yep.
And it was very cyclic for a lot of '80s bands, a
The
lot of '80s big
Steel
bands.
Dragon
It's
way.
Steel Dragon. I love that. I absolutely love that movie.
We like to do things the Steel Dragon way. Otherwise, our fans will listen to the song stylings of
Sounds of say
Rat.
rat. Um, but yeah, I mean, this was very common. '80s, it was very cyclic that way. You write the album, record the album, release the album, tour the album, back to the recording studio.
Yep. But right after this was over, REM decided they had to take a year off. Uh, but in 1990, Warner Brothers issued the music video compilation Pop Scream to collect clips from the Document and Green albums, following a few months later by the video album Tour Film featuring live performances. So they actually released something every year. Upon its release, Green was critical and a commercial success. To promote Green, the band embarked on an 11-month world tour. Oh my God. And released 4 singles from the album: Orange Crush, Stand, Pop Song 89, and Get Up. Um, with the release of Document in 1987, REM fulfilled its contract with the IRS. And frustrated with its recordings, did not see satisfactory overseas distribution. The band told IRS head Jay Boberg that it was leaving the label. Peter Buck also explained that the group felt it was being pressured to sell well by IRS, yet felt IRS's distributor, MCA Records, did not consider the ensemble a priority. So the reason they went to Warner Brothers, again, there was no bad blood. The reason they went to Warner Brothers is IRS was pressuring them to sell more, and they're like, "We're doing everything we can. We're not going to write a, I would say Britney Spears album, but that's not this time. We're not going to write a New Kids on the Block record. That's just not going to happen. But we'll do everything else." And yet IRS's distributor MCA just wasn't. It's like, whatever. Here's Rat. Um, so they actually put the feelers out, and then Warner Brothers picked it up, and the whole idea was that Warner Brothers gave them quite a bit of money, enough money for Bill Berry to buy a farm um, outside of Athens, which is what he always, same farm he lives on today. Um, and it let them do whatever the hell they wanted to. Because these guys aren't lazy. These are hardworking dudes, you know. So kind of lost where I was. Sorry. I got passionate, lost where I was. Some fans did claim, some of the indie fans claimed when they released Green that they were selling out. I heard that at the time, and I will say this now to the audience, the same thing I said to the people, the indie people, again, because we were all kind of a little snobbish and a little gatekeepery. I will say to you what I told them in 1988. Go fuck yourself. This album is incredible. You don't you you don't sell out and write songs like Pop Song 89. That's what that song's about. Um so they began the album process by recording demos at Robbie Collins's underground studio recording studios in Athens, Georgia in February of 88. Bill Berry, Peter Buck, and Mike Mills recorded the basic tracks in 2 configurations: drums, guitar, and bass, and percussion, mandolin, and accordion. The demos were mixed by Robbie Collins, Buren Fowler, guitar tech for Peter Buck, and later member of Driving and Crying, which we have talked about before. And David LeBreur, later bassist for Vic Varney, Michelle Malone, and John Mayer. and presented to REM management. Michael Stipe used these recordings as his vocal arrangement. Some of these demos included the title Great Big, Larry Graham, and the last REM song have never been commercially released. The demo, Larry Graham, was named for a Sly and the Family Stone bassist, Larry Graham, who was famous for his slap bass style. Larry Graham has many similarities musically with Out of Time opener radio song. Title was an older song which had been demoed for Document the year prior and performed over the Work tour. It's the only unreleased song from these demo sessions. Just 1 month after signing with Warner Brothers, the band recorded the basic tracks for Green at Ardent Studios in Memphis, with Scott Litt producing again. That was from May 24th through July 5th, 1988. Recording and mixing resumed later that month at Bearsville Sound Studio in Bearsville, New York. 3 unrelated songs were recorded in Bearsville, including Carnival, and 2 songs, The Wrong Child, were recorded and mixed under the working title Mozart. You know what? Let's talk about the title track since we're talking about it. The opening song for this album is Pop Song 89. Then Get Up, then You Are the Everything, then Stand, then World Leader Pretend, then The Wrong Child, then Orange Crush, then Turn You Inside Out, then Hair Shirt, then I Remember California, and then Untitled, which is an unlisted track. Let's talk about those tracks. Pop Song 89 was a shot across the bow at record executives and touring and making records and being a pop star. And it got the original video got banned in a lot of countries because it had a bunch of it had Mike Stipe shirtless dancing with some people also shirtless. The people he was dancing with were women. So MTV eventually played it, but they only played it on 120 minutes, and they had the big black bars across the women. What was funny is the black bars, because they were dancing like this, and they jump and they shimmy their shoulders and they jump. The black bar did this.
Mm-hmm.
It was really funny, and sometimes it didn't always catch up. But if you got the video that they released later on, yeah, it was uncut. Everybody I know had a copy of that video. Uh, Pop Song 89, Get Up, You Are the Everything, Stand, World Leader Pretend, The Wrong Child, Orange Crust, Turn You Inside Out, Hair Shirt, I Remember California, and the Untitled track.
Again,
Again.
you told us
Uh,
that once.
I know, but I wanted to re-emphasize that because I kind of broke down. Get Up, Get Up is a great song. That's a song about greeting the day, um, being alive. It helps a lot of people out. I'll put it that way. Um, Get Up's one of those songs that's good for depression. And I think that's what it was written for. You Are the Everything. That is a love song. That is a love song. That's like Night Swimming later on. That is a love song.
4th most streamed on that album.
Stand. Um, Stand was the first song released on the album. I heard Stand on the radio, and I didn't realize they'd released the album yet, so I went out and got it. And that's when I picked up my cassette copy and realized um, there was foil over the R's in REM green on the cassette that was in the shape of a number 4.
Mm-hmm.
No one ever explained that. They never said why they did that. It's an REM thing. And if you look in some of the track listings, because there's an air side and a metal side, the 4s will be R's on the listing of the, and they didn't do it later on because I also had it on vinyl later on because my cassette wore out. They didn't do it on the vinyl that I got later on, but it was on that cassette. So what do we think about Green? Let's just talk
Well,
about
I talked about that already. Green is a great album, and it was that was their their big introduction with this one. I mean, going truly mainstream, even though they had some mainstream off document.
Yeah.
This was the big one that took them to the next level. Again, document is my favorite. Um, Followed by Out of Time. Green would be next after that.
Hmm.
But this is a really good album. This was a great sound. I like pretty much every song on this album. I don't hate any song on this album.
No.
Um, but I think the document is superior to this one.
Well, I would kind of agree. I do again. I agree. I don't think they made a bad album for the next, at least this album and the next one, Out of Time, which we were talking about, and we may never have to cover Out of Time because we've talked about it so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we first started talking about REM, what, a year ago, we said their first 7 albums, they're gold. You can listen to any of them, pick them up at any point in the album. They're great. Just listen to them. Listen to the whole damn catalog. Um, it for me, it's a lot of it's 1A and 1B. And maybe, okay, that's 1A, that's 1B, this is 2. They all sound great and you can listen to them all day. And the fact that these were recorded 40 years ago
Hmm.
and are still relevant, still good pieces of music is a testament to how hard these guys work. And we talk about them kind of losing their fastball. They made 7 perfect albums.
That's so funny. You talk about 40 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I hearken back to the days of 8 track.
Uh-huh.
And my mother, as she was driving me around in the car that would eventually become mine, it had an 8 track in it, and we listened to the Beatles. She had a greatest hits of the
Yeah.
Beatles, and we listened to it all the time. And it really didn't hit me then, but as I'm thinking about it now, that was me listening to the Beatles and getting to know them in the 70s and in the early 80s when the Beatles were 30 years old, or 20 years old and then 30 years old.
Hmm.
Um, to think about songs we grew up with now that
Uh-huh.
are 40 years old
40 years
just
old.
boggles my mind. Absolutely boggles my mind.
Yeah. Oh,
But
right now we're talking about 1986 to 1990 roughly. Yeah.
right,
So, or
right.
1989. Yeah. So not quite 40 years, but we're getting there.
But I'm glad we're exposing these to people who haven't given them a shot because these are some phenomenal,
Yeah.
phenomenal songs. Um, our REM became really so big mainstream at this point, um, kind of like In Excess did.
Yeah.
Became very big mainstream, and this is just stuff that you really should get out there and give a listen to, and hear some just quality music.
Yeah. Same. Same with U2. They got huge. Um, that's 3 indie bands I could think of that got huge mainstream. U2, REM,
Hmm.
and In Excess.
Yeah.
All with weird, weird,
Weird names. Yeah.
yeah, weird names.
Yeah.
uh, Weird letter acronym names. But yeah, I'm trying to come up with a thought that I haven't expressed yet. I just they came, they released 7 perfect albums. The next two were
I would not say perfect. I'm going to disagree with you on that. I don't think they're perfect. I think they're all good. I do not think they're
they're
perfect.
not perfect.
No.
Okay, they released 7 albums without a bad song on them.
Correct.
No one else has done that.
No.
Well, maybe not no one, but that list is a very short list.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so and the next two were okay. Anything after that was not great. Um, but you get 7 home runs and 2 singles. That's a pretty good baseball career, I guess. I don't know. You don't uh, you don't see that much anymore.
Hmm.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head that went Maybe Stevie Wonder, maybe Elton
Yeah,
John.
maybe,
Yeah,
maybe
Elton John. I think he had like a 7 year stretch or
could
seven
be,
album stretch. Stevie
maybe.
Wonder definitely did. I can't think of anybody else.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
U2 didn't get there. Joshua Tree was like fifth, fifth or sixth, fifth or sixth.
In their collection,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Um, War, October, Boy, Unforgettable Fire, Josh. Yeah, fifth. I don't know if I got those in the right order, but that's correct. Um, yeah, yeah, just they're amazing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Listen to REM, people.
Yep, I would definitely agree with that. I appreciate. I was looking forward to this because, like I
Mhm.
said, I do like these three albums, so I was looking forward to that. That's awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Um, so I had told you that I had been using Magic Mind,
Uh-huh.
the little energy shot. Um,
Yes.
and so as we're recording today, I guess I've been taking it for three plus weeks, pretty regular every day. And this morning was no different. I had a rough night last night. Barometric pressure has dropped down here, and my knee was killing me,
Mm-hmm.
um, which makes for a very rough night sleeping. So I mean, immediately took the Magic Mind when I got up this morning, and then bam, awake, ready to go for the day.
Nice.
So I tried an experiment. Again, I'm not going to name this company, but I've been taking a regular energy drink for years.
Mm-hmm.
It's full of vitamins and minerals, and it's much better for you than say the stuff you get in the can at the store. Um, but I think it was Wednesday of this week. I was like, I'm going to try something. I'm not taking Magic Mind today. I'm going to go back to my old drink just because I wanted to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, I
So
mean, you gotta have. You know what? You probably ought to do a control as well, where you don't take either one.
I've done that.
Oh, okay.
I've done that. I don't know if I've done it when I've had next to no sleep, but I wanted to try the difference between the two. So I took my old one on Wednesday. Now, did it give me some energy? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me a few hours worth of energy and whatnot, just like it normally does. But it's not the same as Magic Mind. Magic Mind gives me energy almost immediately. It gives it to me for hours and hours and hours on end. It makes my mind clear. Um, I can't begin to tell you how different it is. They have hit a formula. They have absolutely hit a formula, and I'm just telling people about it constantly. You got to try Magic Mind. I'm starting to see their ads everywhere now, because Google listens to everything. Um, but there was a very extreme noticeable difference between my previous energy drink and Magic Mind.
Okay.
Um, M Magic Mind is all natural, number one. There's a little bit of caffeine on it in there, if I remember right. I think
Yeah, but
it's
in most cases, caffeine helps the other processes. So
well,
yeah,
and the caffeine in Magic Mind comes from matcha green tea.
hmm
And it's only 55 milligrams, which is less than a cup of coffee,
hmm
um, and less caffeine than my other energy drink that I was doing for so long. But Magic Mind is all natural. It makes you awake, it makes you aware, it clears up your mind, and it gives it to you for hours and hours and hours on end, and there's no crash at the end. Um, I actually some sometimes during lunch I like to turn on a TV show that I've watched before, so I don't really have to pay attention to it,
hmm
and get me a little nap for,
hmm
during my lunch. Um, I wasn't able to get my nap.
You
The
couldn't go to
other day when
sleep?
I tried to do it, I couldn't go to sleep. I was just kind of laying there and I'm laying a half in my chair and I was like, I'm not tired in the least little bit. I can't take my nap. And it was just habit. I wasn't trying to
I'm gonna
take my
watch
nap
this
because I
episode of
was
Barney
tired.
Miller instead.
So so it was just so funny. I wanted to share that experiment that I did with you because again, as I had mentioned last week, I cannot recommend Magic Mind enough. We do have a discount you can get through our show if you go to www.magicmind.com/nerdery20, and that's NERDERY 20. You can get 20% off from Magic Mind, and you can sign up for the subscription, and they will send it to you every 30 days. Chelsea and I are both taking Magic Mind. My, as I'd said earlier in the show, my brother-in-law is in town, and he as well. He and his family have taken that other energy drink for years.
Yeah, yeah.
I told them, I said, nope, you're going to try Magic Mind when you're here. You need to see the difference on this. So go out there, check out Magic Mind. Again, www.magicmind.com/nerdery, NERDERY 20. You can get 20% discount on it. So go out and give that a shot. I'm so thankful they reached out to me and have discovered the product. It's phenomenal. It's great.
Rudy.
Cool. So with that, I'm gonna step over to the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
For day to for for today for today. There we go. For today, I got my information off Medium, Wikipedia, the Alabama Attorney General website, ABC News, CBS News, and Alabama News. And this is the murders of J.B. Beasley and Tracie Hawlett.
J.B. Beasley and Tracie Hawlett.
On the night of July 31st, 1999, there were two teenage girls who were from Dothan, Alabama. They had set out to go to celebrate a birthday, but never returned home. JB Beasley and her best friend Tracie Hawlett, who were both 17 years old, were driving to a nearby town to enjoy JB's birthday. Hours later, the friends were reported missing, and on the next day, their bodies were discovered in JB's black 1993 Mazda 929 along Herring Avenue in Ozark, Alabama. This brutal murder ignited a 20-year investigation that would become one of the most notorious cold cases in Alabama's history.
Wow.
JB and
93
Trace,
929. That was a good car.
yeah, they were. Mazda, if you
Yeah.
wanna sponsor us.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
I'll just take an old 323. You guys got a 323 laying around? I'll take one of those.
JB and Tracy went to Northview High School. They were seniors at the time of the murders. Excuse me. JB Hilton Green Beasley was born on July 31st, 1982 in Troy, Alabama. Tracy Jean Hawlett was born on March 3rd, 1982. Um, JB was described by her family as a quote, full of energy girl who had a passion for dance. During junior high school, JB was a member of Junior Honor Society and the cheer squad and participated in other extracurricular activities. It was kind of strange. I didn't find out more about Tracy other than her father died when she was 4. It was kind of weird that was all I could find on her. On the night of the murders, JB and Tracy got lost while they were driving to a party. Around 11:35 p.m., Tracy called her mother, Carol Roberts, from a payphone at the Big Little store, which was a convenience store and Chevron station at 763 East Broad Street, which is now an inland gas station,
Mhm.
which is in Ozark, Alabama, and explained that they had asked for directions and were on their way home. Carol, her mother, remembered her daughter saying on the phone, quote, "We've got directions." She didn't talk like anything was wrong. There wasn't any fear or anything in her voice. We said we love you to each other, and I went on to bed. This would be the last anyone heard from them.
Oh, wow.
That sucks. I hate hearing that in stories like this, that a parent or a relative or whatnot got a phone call and that's the last they heard from him
Yeah. Hey, I'm on
ever.
my way home. I'll be home in
Yes,
half hour or so.
yes,
Well, hell,
yes,
I'm going to bed. I'll see
yes.
you when you get. I'll
Because
see you in
we've
the morning.
we've had so many cases where that's been the case. They heard from their loved ones, so they decide to go to bed, and they're never heard from again. And that's awful. That is just awful. Um, the following day, Carol and JB's parents reported their daughters missing when they didn't return home. Authorities did launch a search, and soon after, JB's car was found, again abandoned at Herring Avenue along the road in Ozark, Alabama. Law enforcement patrolled the nearby area in search of the girls, but found nothing. But eventually, a police officer decided to open the vehicle's trunk, and that's where the bodies of the two girls were found inside the trunk. Both had been shot execution style in the head, and their personal belongings remained untouched, so rule out robbery. Barry Tucker, who's a now retired trooper captain with the Alabama Bureau of Investigation, said, quote, "That crime scene, that trunk, those two girls is the only homicide I've ever turned around and had to walk off. When you see the innocence and a life that has just been snatched away, that's hard to swallow."
They didn't take any of their personal belongings.
Nope.
Did they have their clothes on?
So Tracie did. Tracie was clothed. Um, JB was in a state of undress. Police did discover DNA in JB's underwear,
Okay.
which led them to believe that JB had been raped. There was
Hmm.
no DNA trace found on Tracie's body. Um, Despite the presence of DNA, though, authorities did hit a dead end after dead end, because no match was found in the national database, which means somebody hasn't been arrested, basically. I mean,
Yeah.
because you're talking 1999. That wasn't prominent for
That's
DNA
25
yet.
years ago.
Yeah. So basically, it just means that the person hadn't been arrested, or probably had not. The initial investigation was intense, though. They conducted over 500 interviews, and there were more than 70% potential suspects who were tested for DNA. There was a nationwide 24-hour hotline that was set up to gather tips, and a reward of 15,000 was offered. The governor at the time, Don Siegelman, added another 10,000 to the reward in the hopes of prompting someone to come forward with investigation. But unfortunately, as we've seen many times, false leads and dead ends just absolutely plagued this investigation. At one point, a local man claimed to have knowledge about the murder, stating that the girls had been lured into the woods by a man they met at the gas station. However, this tip turned out to be false, and the man had made up the story in order to claim the reward money.
Ah,
Fuck you.
yeah.
Um, Another man in
Poverty make you do crazy things, though.
I know, but that's just awful. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Another man in Michigan also falsely confessed to the murders, but his DNA did not match the evidence collected at the crime scene. Despite the tireless efforts of investigators and attention of the national media, the case went cold for 20 years. Programs like America's Most Wanted and On the Case with Paula Zahn kept the story in the public eye, but no significant leads surfaced. The murders were considered by authors as a crime that, quote, haunted the Ozark and Wiregrass region. The murders did make national headlines for years, and the Ozark police chief named the crime as one of the biggest cases in Alabama. Finally, in 2018, a breakthrough came through. Ozark police turned to Parabon Nanolabs, which is a company known for using genetic genealogy to solve cold cases. I've mentioned Parabon before.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Parabon is amazing.
Yeah. The only problem with Parabond is that a lot of people are using them and they are kind of backlogged a little bit.
Oh yeah, they absolutely are. Absolutely. Um, Parabon, at the time, had recently been involved in identifying the infamous Golden State Killer, which we've
Hmm.
covered.
Yep.
And police hoped that the same technology could solve the murders of JB and Tracie.
Since they're solving so many crimes, we could give them a federal grant to expand. You know what I'm saying? Let's just do that.
So don't quote me on this. I believe they do have some federal grants. I know that there are also people that donate to Parabon because it is quite expensive to do this DNA
Yeah, yeah.
testing.
Oh, the resequencers are a $500,000 a piece.
Yeah,
And that's not even just the main computer. They're just the bit that resequences the DNA.
right. So that's not to say don't give to Parabon because if you can donate to Parabon,
Yeah,
definitely donate to them. But
yeah.
I do believe they get some federal funding. Don't quote me on that. I could be
Okay.
wrong. I
Well,
look that up. See if Paramount gets any federal funding. I'm just curious. Um, so with the success they had with the Golden State Killer, police were hoping that the same technology could be used to solve the murders of JB and Tracie. So they used DNA evidence from the crime scene, and Parabon Nanolabs created a genetic profile and uploaded it to a public genealogy database, GED match, which we've also mentioned them before. Did you find anything on it?
I'm still looking.
Okay.
I don't apparently don't know how to spell para.
Parabon,
That's what
Parabon.
I did. One word?
Yeah, Parabon Nanolabs,
Oh, that's why I didn't put the nano labs.
Nanolabs, and Nanolabs is one word as well.
Oh, it is. All right.
Um, did you find something?
Together with the Edgewood Chemical Biological Center, United States Army Research. Yes, they do.
Okay,
United States
I
Army Research Office.
okay. I mean that would only make sense
Yeah,
because they have helped solve so many crimes.
yeah.
It would only make sense, but
Maybe we should give them a little more. Let
yeah,
them expand.
I completely agree. I completely agree. So 5 months later, in 2019, Ozark Police Chief Marlos Walker received results, and he noticed a familiar name on the list of possible matches. They found a match with a relative of 45-year-old Collie Lewis McCraney, who was a local truck driver and preacher who had no prior criminal record. Again,
No
DNA
one wants
wasn't
to
in the
report the
database.
preacher. That's why they seek out that job.
I'm not stepping on that soapbox, not in the least little bit.
I step on that
I
soapbox all the
and I
time.
disagree with you on that because
They
I've known good preachers.
Yeah, what I'm
I've
saying, predators seek out that position. That's why you can't trust any of them because you don't know
mm,
who is good and who is bad.
no, we're going to disagree on that. I didn't say you can't trust any of them because I think there are some that are extremely trustworthy, and I've known some that are extremely trustworthy. That is not the only job that predators seek out, though.
No, they also seek out positions of power like police,
Positions of power
mayors.
or positions of authority.
Exactly.
Right. Predators do seek those out. But anyway, one of Coley McRaney's relatives voluntarily submitted DNA into a genealogy database. So police were hoping to get closer to an exact DNA match. So Chief Walker then contacted his former classmate, Coley McCraney, who he went to school with, and
Hmm.
asked if he would voluntarily give a DNA sample.
Hmm.
Coley agreed to help with the investigation by providing a DNA sample at the Ozark Police Department. Walker said he was blown away by the news he later learned from lab with results, which confirmed Coley's DNA was a match to the traces of DNA solely found on JB. Walker did say Coley was not a suspect in 1999 and had not been on investigators' radar. So I have to wonder about that. Eh, Here, let me ruin the surprise. Coley is guilty.
Uh-huh.
The DNA was found. I wonder why he submitted DNA.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe
He's
somebody in his family did a 23andMe.
no. He said he agreed to help and provided a sample. They found him because of a relative that submitted, but then
Yeah.
they asked him to submit DNA, and he did willingly. So I find that a little interesting. I find it a little interesting, and that may,
Or he could be a sociopath and just assume he could get away with it.
or he thinks he's innocent.
He thinks he's innocent?
Comes to play here. Well,
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
listen to
yeah,
what we
yeah.
talk about. I think you'll understand. Um, So he lived just a mile from where the girls' bodies were found. In
Okay.
March of 2019, he was arrested and charged with 4 counts of capital murder, two for each girl,
Hmm.
along with 1 count of capital murder rape for the sexual assault of JB.
Hmm.
He lived in the area for 2 decades without attracting any attention. He graduated Carroll High School in 1992. He had served in the U.S. Air Force in Biloxi, Mississippi, before returning to his hometown in Ozark. He was a respected figure in the community. He was a truck driver and again served as a preacher at Spirit and Truth Lifeline Ministries, which was a nonprofit he co-founded in 2013. He was married with children and had never been on the police's radar during the investigation. When he was confronted with the DNA evidence, Coley admitted to knowing JB. He claimed they had met weeks earlier at Wiregrass Commons Mall. He said,
Hmm.
I knew her as Jennifer and we had consensual sex that night. So, according to Coley, the two
Hmm.
had consensual sex in his truck on the night of her murder. However,
Hmm.
he denied any involvement in the murders and maintained his innocent. He pleaded not guilty on all charges. So, he believes he's innocent and is claiming he's innocent. So I guess that's why he submitted DNA.
Oh, like so his story is, yeah, we had sex and then she left
Yeah,
and somebody else murdered her.
and that they had sex that night in his truck. I
Yeah.
think that's awfully coincidental.
Yeah.
Just me, just me. I'm
Yeah.
just an
Yeah.
armchair investigator, but that's just me.
It's very coincidental.
Um, so I don't know. I mean, you kind of have to decide for yourself as we go through this. Um, in April of 2023, Coley's trial began. His defense attorney, David Harrison, argued that the DNA evidence was not enough to prove Coley's guilt. Investigators never found a murder weapon, and Harrison claimed that the DNA evidence only proved that there was a sexual encounter. She's right.
Hmm.
Coley did take the stand in his own defense. He confessed that he knew JB. He
Well,
said,
wait. Well,
hmm
you know what though? That makes sense because they only found DNA on one of the girls.
hmm
Like maybe they drove out there. She met in the truck. The other girl stayed in the car, listened to tunes or whatever,
or,
and then they went on and got killed someplace else. That
or,
I can see that story. Okay.
or he raped and killed JB and had to
Uh-huh.
kill the only witness, Tracie.
Yeah.
Devil's advocate. I just got to play it there,
Yeah.
you know. So Colley, he confessed that he knew Beasley. A few weeks before the murder, he said he had had a conversation with JB, in which she introduced herself as Jennifer at the Wiregrass Commons Mall.
Hmm.
He testified that he had engaged in consensual sex with JB, but he claimed to have no knowledge that, quote, Jennifer was actually JB Beasley or that she was later murdered.
Hmm.
Now, he further said that he and JB had planned to meet at an Ozark gas station at 10 p.m. on July 31st, 1999, the night of the
Hmm.
murder.
Hmm.
When JB was late, he said he went to his mother's house to wait on a call from JB, but never received one. He then said he left his mother's house at around 11:30 p.m. to head home, that his alternator gave out, and the car broke down at the same gas station where he finally saw JB and Tracie at a payphone.
Hmm.
He talked to JB for a few minutes. He got in her car and gave the girls directions to Highway 231, after which they stopped at another gas station next to the highway where his semi truck was parked, where he and JB then had sex in the back in the cab of his truck.
Okay.
And then he testified that after he and Beasley had consensual sex, the girls drove him to his house at around 12:45 a.m. and they went their separate ways. That's his story.
Hmm.
It's very coincidental.
Yes.
I just have to throw it out there. It is very coincidental. Um, the prosecution was led by Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall. He presented the DNA evidence as the key link between Colley and the crime scene. They were seeking the death penalty. Um, and despite Colley claiming innocent, the jury did find him guilty of all charges on April 26, 2023, after 9 days of trial. Um, but then he was sentenced to life in prison without parole, did not get the death penalty. After sentencing, Steve Marshall issued the following statement, quote, the families of J.B. Beasley and Tracie Hawlett have prayed for over 2 decades that their daughter's murder would be brought to justice. While we cannot bring back their loved ones, we hope today's sentencing will bring them some level of closure. Colley did appeal his sentencing, and the appeal for new trial was denied on July of 2023, and he's currently serving his sentence at the William E. Donaldson Correctional Facility. In 2024, Coley's defense attorney filed another motion with Alabama's Court of Criminal Appeals, and this is where the case stands today. The murder itself of JB and Tracie left a very deep scar in the Ozark community and really the entire Wiregrass region. The families fought for justice for 20 years,
Yeah.
never giving up hope the case would be solved. Carol, JB's mother, expressed relief after the guilty verdict. She said, quote, we've waited 20 years for this day. We never gave up hope, and now we can finally begin to heal. Some days you go to work, get home, and tears start. You go to sleep crying. Through God's mercy, we've come this far, and that's what Tracie would want us to do. She also told CBS News, quote, I wake up and hear her screaming. We haven't slept all night in almost 20 years. I don't care how many times a night I wake up. Tracie's on my mind.
Mhm.
Um, JB's mother, I'm sorry, Carol was Tracie's mother. JB's mother, Cheryl said, quote, once you lose a child, it takes you to places you would never expect. For people to come out and care this much, it's a miracle. I can't do this alone. Coley's family is continuing to maintain his innocent. His wife spoke out after his trial, saying, quote, Coley is a good man. He did not do this. We will continue to fight for justice.
Yeah.
ABC News' Deborah Roberts spoke with Coley McCraney in an exclusive phone interview from his Alabama prison, and he maintained his innocence there as well. He said, quote, they can call me a cheat, they can call me a dog, they can call me a lot of things at that time, but they cannot call me a killer.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I'll come back to this in a minute. The area where their bodies were found, the family and friends did erect a monument to honor the lives of the two girls.
Mhm.
Um, the loss still resonates within the community, those who knew them as well as who followed the story over the years. The use of DNA genetic DNA technology, genealogy. It continues to bring attention to the potential of this technology to solve longstanding cold cases, which we're seeing. It's offering a glimmer of hope to families waiting for justice and shows the persistence, the power of persistence of justice. Um, the fact that his DNA was found in her underwear,
Mhm.
I, I agree. It does show that they had sex. Um, I didn't I didn't read anything if they did any testing at the time to see
I think there was tearing,
if there was tearing to show potential non-consensual. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Defensive
Um,
wounds, things like that.
I think everything. I think of this case very similar to the Adnan Syed case.
Hmm.
Um, Collie McCraney is either guilty
Hmm.
or he is the unluckiest man alive, because he was in every place they were and was
Hmm.
placed at the scene and just happened to have sex with her that night to get
Yeah.
the DNA,
Which he freely admits.
which he freely admits, and then they get killed.
Hmm.
I think everything is awful coincidental. He is either guilty or he is the unluckiest man on the planet.
Yeah.
That's all I say about that.
Yeah.
That's
It's
really
one of those two things.
right. Well, right. Um, So, like I said, as of 2024, his appeals are still going on.
Yeah. Both arguments make sense though.
Right,
If you sit down and think about it, okay, he got the one girl, the other girl was a witness, so he'd kill them both. That's why you had
right,
them face away. You said execution style, so I'm assuming from the
correct,
back.
correct,
Blam, blam. Okay. Real quick, simple, throws him in the car, locks the car trunk, walks away.
right,
I
right.
get it. Apparently, scrubs everything for prints,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't get
Because they
anything
didn't find
about
him for
that.
20 years, but
Right,
for the DNA.
right.
And then they come
So,
up and he volunteers to give his blood sample and go, you don't know, test me. It probably was me. or you could test me if I'm on the list. I want to get knocked off. It's like, whoa, whoa. He's like, wait a minute. JB is Jennifer? Yeah, I know Jennifer. I haven't heard from her in 20 years. He didn't, because he says he didn't realize it was the same person.
Right.
Um,
So he may not have been thinking that, or or
exactly.
or he or he lied about that, and he
Yeah.
thought, sure, I can give DNA. I had sex with her, and I can
Yeah.
say it was consensual because they had had it before. That
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
that, and so he could have just been
Although she was
bold.
what? How old was she again? 17?
17 at the time of the murder.
Good God. I mean, if you got to do that much math, maybe you should start dating older women. Because at the time that would have made him like 24, 25.
What year was he born? He was born, hold
This
please.
this was 1999. He graduated high school in 92.
I'm looking. I think that was right. Dun 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 dun. He was 45 years old in 2018.
So 20 years before that, he would have been 25. Yeah, 24, 25.
Yeah,
Yeah. He shouldn't
yeah.
have been jagging with no 17-year-old girl anyway at 24,
No,
25.
no, no.
18, 19, I can see, you're still pretty close.
Right.
But 24, no, he knew better.
Yeah, it's problematic all the way
Yep.
around.
Yes, it is.
So anyway, um,
Sorry, I'm
that's
playing the scenarios out in my head.
no, because I kind of did the same thing because I kind of went back and forth on this. I just personally think everything is too coincidental to rule
Yeah,
it out, and
yeah.
I'm kind of on the side of they caught their killer.
They caught the guy.
That's what I'm on the
Well,
side of.
and we're not seeing any other murders pop up after this. So it was either premeditated or a crime of passion, or they saw something they weren't supposed to.
Maybe,
One of
maybe,
those three things.
maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But that's the story of the murders of J.B. Beasley and Tracie Hawlett.
Well, thank you for that, sir.
You bet. That will take us to the end of another recording week. As always, you can find more information about us on nerderymurdery.com. That's our hub for everything about our show. You'll find links to what we talk about, plus pictures of the topics we discuss. And you'll also find the link to our YouTube page that Zig so often updates.
Yes, go to the YouTube page. Listen to those records. Listen to them. I don't think a single one of them is more than 40 minutes long. Listen to the whole thing.
Yep, agree with that. On our webpage, you can also find the link to our Patreon account, where if you wish to show off your nerdy or murdery fandom, please do consider purchasing something from that. That, along with our patrons, you can find the link to our Patreon on our webpage. Our merchandise and our patrons help with the costs that are associated with the show, help keep us going, help keep us on the air, and keep bringing you the subject matters that we talk about here. We do appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. Last but not least, please don't forget to leave a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us and helps others find our content that may be looking for the information that we are talking about. So with that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Jeffrey with your murdering.
Cue the music.